This meeting is being recorded.
So I wanted to ask those who are new if they would like to, and who would like to, if you'd like to introduce yourself or, hi Nadia. I also wanted to propose it if you've got some sort of great news from your work in economics, if you want to bring that up into this introductory space, it would be a great way to get us energized and launch our meeting. Otherwise, for those of you who are new, I wasn't here last time, so I'm not sure who was
We
here
have
and
we have
not here.
two new faces here this evening.
Okay.
And we have Phoebe from Stockport and Tony Week. So Phoebe, would you like to just a minute to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, friends. It's good to see such a varied group of people. I'm from Stockport, which is just outside Manchester. I'm in the same social justice group as Jonathan and have followed up some links with Doughnut Economics. So I'll briefly talk about that later.
Thank you. Tony?
My name is Tony, yes. I be apparent from my accent that I was born and brought up most of my life in Northern England. I was a lecturer in a university in Northern England, but I'm not going to say which one unless it becomes important. I lived in Belfast, having married into an Irish family. We've lived here now since the turn of the century, actually. I'm a member of South Belfast Quaker meeting. And some time ago now, I think a year or more, I think maybe just post-pandemic, we wanted to twin our meeting with meetings in England, just to exchange various ideas, possibilities, and get new inspiration. And we chose two. I think one was Manchester, the other was Liverpool. Liverpool never responded, but Manchester did. And I came over and I met two people from the area meeting in Manchester concerned with matters of social justice and the environment. And well, I picked up some of the email messages and made an offer, if I may, could I become a kind of honorary or remote member of the area meetings, discussions, conversations on matters economic and matters environmental. And I'm pleased to say they agreed, and it's been really very interesting experience for me.
Thank you, Tony. The other face that some of you may not have seen is Nadia, who has just joined us. She was online for part of the conversation last time, but you may not have actually seen her. So welcome, Nadia. Do you want to introduce yourself in 30 seconds?
Hi, I'm Nadia. I'm part of Geneva monthly meeting, and I am a big fan of facilitating new ideas, and that's what I do in my everyday life. And I'm happy to co-facilitate today a little bit, and very excited about the topic. I think it's extremely important that we take care of this.
Nadia will be helping to facilitate the latter part of this evening. Back to you, Rory.
And Ron, could I just introduce myself?
Oh, sorry, Paul. Yes, I know you so well. I overlooked.
That's all right. So it's really nice to be here. I'll just say I have long-standing interest in economics and how that has destroyed the world, really, is destroying the world, capitalism, and written about that in The Friend. And with Jill Westcott, ran the course, around 3-week course from Woodbrook around Quakerism and capitalism before Christmas. So it's really nice to be here. And the other thing that might be relevant is that I'm part of the small group that's building the program for the National Quaker Earth Care Gathering, Nurturing Radical Witness and Radical Worship, that's going to be held in Britain in October, for which there might well be interest in an economic stream. So that's a conversation that might be worth going on and holding at some point, not necessarily this evening, but just to say that's a possibility.
Thank you, Paul. My apologies again.
Thank you, Paul. I wonder if you could put links to those, I assume there are links that you could share with us in the chat. And that's helpful, I think, when we mention things, if we could share that in the chat so that it's a resource which then becomes available to the rest.
The publicity is just becoming available, so I haven't got a link yet, but I'll send it
Okay.
to you and Ron when it's available.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well,
Can I just ask? Can I
yes.
ask Paul a question, please?
Go ahead.
Yeah. If you're anti-capitalist, Paul, what are you for?
That's a really long answer, and I think it begins with saying that our testimonies, my understanding of our testimonies, begin with starting with the basic, the lie against which we will not live. And if you think about the peace testimony, it began with, I will not commit violence. And the fact that you have a testimony holds the space open for alternatives to begin. And if we always say, what's your alternative to capitalism? You're forever silenced and not holding that space open. It clearly anyway, we're getting into a discussion which is really interesting, but maybe not what we want to do right now. I mean, that's up to Rory and Ron, whether I'm happy to continue this, but it won't be what you plan for the evening.
No, I think you'll have an opportunity to talk about that in the breakout groups, and then when we come back into plenary, and probably on another session on another day. So hold a fire for the breakout groups, Paul.
Well, we do have an agenda, which is Phoebe had mentioned the Manchester Quakers encounter with Doughnut Economics. That's our plenary. And then we move into breakout group discussions where we self-divide into 3 possible streams of activity, building on responses to the questionnaire that hopefully many of you were able to consider and send responses to, and also considering the earlier conversations we'd had. And then we'll come back into a plenary to work on next steps forward. Okay. So that's the agenda. Without further ado, I am happy to pass it on to Phoebe, who has about 20 minutes. No, 10 minutes, sorry. 10 minutes plus 10 minutes question and answer. I hope that's okay.
Oh, right. I'm going to be very brief because I expect many of you have come across Doughnut Economics. I kind of sense Kate Raworth went for it about the circular economy, not the mechanical one that is presented in well, Samuelson's economics, the obsession with graphs. So she wanted something visual and circular. Yeah, we need a circular economy, and the boundaries are set by the ecological boundaries on the outer ring that we're surpassing every day. And at the center is the human condition. So there's kind of the, what shall I say, a sweet spot in the middle to live between those 2 boundaries, those 2. Well, I'd say ecological is certainly a constraint, and the expectation for people's welfare and being able to thrive is clearly based on your values. It's, well, yeah, it's political in that it's expecting fairness, it's expecting everyone to have their human rights, all this kind of agenda. That I have done a small sort of list of links for you to follow up. And I will say that the Doughnut Economics has now set up an action lab. So it's putting Doughnut Economics into practice. And in the Manchester area, it's called Transform GM because it's meant to be transformative economics. And they intend to do they are embarking on a city portrait looking at how the area, the city, is performing in this donut concept about the ecological boundaries and the human, well, I don't like to call them boundaries, the human aspects of our life. So it's a mapping exercise. And in fact, Manchester Quakers have undertaken a mapping exercise. Jonathan could tell you more about that, but that did look at aspects of energy, which clearly has ecological boundaries, but also transport, food, which are more the human-centered side, but have very clear implications for the ecological boundaries. It's about getting a dynamic balance. So it's not the upward curve of growth, which we all despair of, but dynamic balance. And the other thing I should mention is there's a basic sort of matrix between the global and the local and the ecological and the social. So it's kind of where you fit into those categories and the impacts, the consequences for other aspects of this analysis. Perhaps I should be screen sharing, but I hope I've done an introduction. And as I say, some of us from the Manchester Social Justice Group have been to some of this Transform GM's meetings about setting up these further explorations and putting Doughnut Economics into practice. And we had a meeting with Melanie Reback, I don't know, from Amsterdam. She talks about social entrepreneurship in a quite a radical way. And there's also steady state economics in Manchester that is part of the degrowth movement that produces a lot of papers. I put the links on this submission that I hope will be circulated afterwards. We haven't really had time to discuss this in our social justice meetings because there's just so many issues. But the mapping exercise with Quakers in Manchester, I think has borne some fruit and got some other friends involved. As I say, I think Jonathan could say more about that, how Quakers have put these concepts into practice.
You want to add anything, Jonathan?
Well, I'm not really fully prepared for this, but the mapping exercise, I think, is a little bit of as a tangent in a way. It was an attempt to see where the area meetings membership as a whole has reached in terms of the stated objective of Britain Yearly Meeting to become a low carbon sustainable community. So we were looking at all sorts of things, including diet and energy use and transport and so on, trying to get a picture. And it's a picture that's mildly encouraging, but not quite where we would like to be, or where a low carbon sustainable community might end up. So that's one side of things, but I don't want to take too much space on that. I just want to offer one observation on Doughnut Economics on the book. It seems to me I'm not completely at ease with the sort of end direction of it all, but it has some wonderful demolitions of conventional economic theory, and that is extremely important in trying to delegitimize the current economic system, because it's based on quite a number of absolutely extraordinary myths. So that really is, I think, one of the great strengths. And the other is the use of diagrams and that people can cotton on to, and the whole idea of the circular thing that we need to be in between the inner circle and the outer circle is beyond that is the destruction of the world and so on. That's just a very good way of sort of presenting a sort of view of where we are. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Phoebe, for that introduction to your experience as a group with Doughnut Economics. And I wonder if there could be any more questions. Either I realize that you're not the expert on Doughnut Economics, but in this group you are probably more of an expert than most of us. And there could be questions more about how you're kind of going through this process. For example, I'm interested just to know who's driving this in Manchester. Like, who's doing the what was it, the GM, transformed GM?
Right, that they're a group of some are academics, some are entrepreneurs. They've set up sustainability consultancies. So I would say it's a bit of an opportunity for them to network. I mean, they've read the book, they want to see what they can do, and they're looking for partners like the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, which is an amalgamation of the local authorities, are looking to do further research. We have a green summit, but they weren't there. The other group, the Steady State Economics, were there. It's all in development, in flux, how you have a presence. And, well, empower people, really, because as Jonathan says, to combat the dominant narrative. Because I have to say, yes, Manchester is quite a Labour-dominated area, but there are alternative voices there.
Oh, I see Priscilla's hands up.
Thank you very much for your useful introduction, Phoebe. A lot of our tax goes to national spending. And how do you see Doughnut Economics having a real power and a real hold on the nation unless the government supports it? And what kind of government do you think would support it?
I would say the ambition, the aspiration is to have things as local as possible. You know, it's definitely bottom up. But
well, just to take, for instance, our local hospitals that are crumbling away to rack and ruin, needing billions of pounds to be spent on them, and then they'll be demolished because they're so old. and the unfairness of people being really ill all around the place and not getting healthcare, not getting food, bad housing, all of these things. How does that relate to your economic vision?
Well, they do have these suggested tools that you do. Firstly, do this analysis, like this portrait, and then you look at what actions you can take. And I think it will be difficult. I mean, personally, yeah, we should look at the local council tax, how that needs reforming. But of course, in our centralised system, that will need government approval. But, you know, in a local area, yes, there's a lot of goodwill towards hospitals. We all need them. So that might be a good lever for change. I have to say, although my local MP says the hospital is her priority, and I do try and correspond with her about the economic aspects, but yeah, it will be about finding ways in with the hospital trusts, with the management, having a strategy day to just map this out and see what the possibilities are. I would just quickly say there was a member of the Transform GM who did a big thing on recycling plastics within the NHS, because as you can imagine, there is just so much plastic waste. And, you know, they had a good system going, because inevitably the NHS does pay for its waste to be dealt with. So why not pay to have it reused and recycled? But yes, that experiment has happened, and I hope we've learnt from it, but sadly is no more.
The reason it doesn't do recycling is contamination. You could be spreading infection.
You know, they heat it, they shred it. You know, I'm not saying it's necessarily everything that's contaminated, but what did I see? It was all done in a lovely, lovely, an old mill where they collected it, and they made test tubes and clips. I bought some things that they made. I mean, they didn't make new medical equipment as such, as far as I'm aware, not that I saw. I should have I can add that to the little paper I've done, so you can explore that a bit more. But yeah, interesting. And I do take your point.
Thank you. I see there's two hands. There's Ron's hand, and I see Jonathan's real life hand. I think Jonathan was first. Oh, and then Andres. And then we'll have to move on to breakout groups.
Very briefly, really, in response to the previous question, it seems to me it's an extremely difficult time when so much money is needed and so much extra growth. So the growth theme of the Labour government goes with the grain of public opinion, really, in a very powerful way. It seems to me that we have to do two things. One is to emphasize the need to find the money in ways which don't harm either the environment or most people, and the wealth tax and all the taxes that can be on wealth and on products that are damaging to the environment must be one direction. And it looks to me also as though we are going to have to devise ways of phasing out things that are completely unnecessary and damaging in all sorts of ways. And that will be very difficult also for public opinion. But Kate Raworth's book is not as sharply, well, is not as demandingly utopian as some of the thoughts about the economic future. So, and with the diagrams as well, there is at least the possibility of using it in terms of dialogue with government and with other leaders.
Thank you, Jonathan. And we can go to Ron.
Thank you. I think it might be worth just mentioning that whatever one thinks about doughnut economics, it is something which has caught the imagination of a lot of people, even a lot of authorities around the world. And nearly every paper, article, whatever that comes out these days, referring to possible new economic systems, references doughnut economics. There was also quite a large scale movement. Phoebe mentioned the deal, the Doughnut Economics Action Lab, which is promoting the use of the doughnut in various places. It's probably more advanced in Amsterdam than anywhere else. I don't know whether Martin knows anything about that. But they're quite advanced in Amsterdam in using the doughnut in local planning. And there's a Wellbeing Alliance that is becoming very, very widespread worldwide now, which again integrates the doughnut in particular into what they are proposing. So I think we need to see it in this context and recognize that it's something to be taken account of, whatever we think of it. And that it may indeed actually have quite a lot of traction worldwide.
Thank you, Ron. And we'll finish up with Andres.
Hi, and thank you, Phoebe. Thank you also, Ron, for that point. I think that so I will start with a question to all the group is given that doughnut economics has emerged as a contestant or a widely cited contestant for an alternative economic system. What I do appreciate about Kate Rower's work is that she really goes into the education system in order to begin undermining the traditional neoliberal economic model and system. And my question to the group is, you have all these models and alternatives to economic systems, Ubuntu economics, doughnut economics, so on and so forth. My question is whether as Quakers and friends, you will be able to determine which of them fits it fits better with Quaker values and principles in a non-utopian way as it has been mentioned before. Which one of these can we use as a basis to advance our own narrative, and one that has already received some traction at the international community? And Phoebe, with regards to the NHS, as you know, the Sustainable and Just Economic Systems program at CUNO has been looking a lot at plastics pollution over the last two years. And while recycling is, let's say, the best alternative, certainly not in the health system, but recycling can be a good alternative to upcycle or downcycle some of the plastics that have already been generated. It is of great importance to emphasize that there should be an advocacy to find substitutes and environmentally sustainable substitutes and alternatives to plastics at all costs when possible, and also to advocate locally and to your national governments that plastic extraction of petrochemicals need to be stopped, because this is harming all species in the world and humans. There's studies that have found microplastics in placentas, in our sperm for males. So it is really, really, really concerning. to see the amount of plastics being concentrated in our systems, and it bioaccumulates. So every round of recycling also entails the release of microplastics in water, so on and so forth. So that was just a point, a bit granular, but just that I wanted to raise.
Thank you, Andres. And thank you again, Phoebe, for sharing your experience with us, and Jonathan as well. So we're going to bring this part to a close, and we're going to hand it over to Nadia for the breakout groups.
Thank you so much. Rory, could you check your WhatsApp or the chat? Because I need something from you.
Oh, you need to.
So before we go into the breakout rooms, we would like to do a little recap of the questionnaire we sent. Maybe you had a chance to look at the results. It informs kind of how we chose the topics for today. And I'm going to share my screen and just browse through the questions we asked and the answers that were given.
Can't hear you, Nadia.
Sharing your screen seems to have turned off your microphone, Nadia.
Still can't hear you.
How about now? Okay. Don't know what happened.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah, the microphone changed. I don't know why. Maybe Ron, you could share the screen of the presentation just to be sure that we don't have any hiccups. Would that be possible?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't want to use too much time for this, but just so you have an overview. So there was the first question. What do I want to learn about in relation to economic and financial systems and their effects? And here are, I think, all of the answers, right, Ron, that were given. And
it's a summary selection.
It's a selection, so kind of a summary. So there is, on one hand, learning more about actions and new systems at local level, maybe something like we now heard in the presentation, how to counter the pervasive narrative of growth. How can we work with that? Alternatives to capitalism, which we also have heard already today. What a post-growth, post-capitalist economic system would actually look like, and how it would work, and what its values would be. Other possible economic models and initiatives to transform current economic and financial systems, and our own individual and collective complicity in sustaining the current systems through savings, investments, and pension funds and other things we contribute. The second question.
Excuse me, but do we need to go through all these answers?
Questions. We don't have to. I thought it might be interesting to just browse through them quickly.
Oh, if you sent them in advance, if we've read them, we know them, don't we?
Okay, good. Fine. We can go on. So let's move to the page 7, I think 8. Yes. Is anyone here who has not had the possibility to read the answers? Maybe we can share them in the chat. So could you go to page 8, interests within our group, 3 streams? Yes. So in the preparatory work for this meeting, we came up with 3 possible streams. The first stream is knowledge sharing and information exchange relating to current systems, ethical and theological issues, new economy models, personal experience of and possibilities for action at individual, meeting, and local levels. This group who's interested in just a kind of discussion in this direction will stay here in the plenary. The second group is about radical action or radical action, example setting action specifically by Quakers. So what do Quakers have to bring to the table for the topic, and what can we do that is actually radical and example setting? And the third group is about strategizing for joint action among Quakers and with other faith groups for a movement to bring about systemic change. So it goes out of the bounds of Quakers. How can we team up or work together with others? And we have also prepared questions for the group. So maybe before you decide where you want to join, let's look at the next page. Based on the questionnaires and the ideas we had for these three streams, the questions could be, what could be priorities and ways forward for this stream? So it's not about having an in-depth discussion content-wise on the topic, but rather looking like what would be next steps, what could be first things, low-hanging fruits, first things we can do to get this stream going. And to put a Quaker lens on it, like what can Quakers offer in this particular content? What is really ours to do in this topic or in this particular context? And if we go back to the three streams, thank you. You can choose where you would like to join and bring back some kind of answers to the two questions. And it can be, we don't have that much time, it can be quite on the surface, but to see like where could we take this further? What could the next step be to follow up with this topic? And I would like to ask you now, firstly, if you have any questions about the design of the breakout rooms, if it's clear what we're going to do. And I think, Ron, could you say how much time we have, just to remind me, in the groups?
We were envisaging 20 minutes, but we are running a little bit over time already.
Yeah, let's say 15 to 20 minutes, and then we will harvest just the results from all the three streams and have a little discussion on what to do next. So if you could let me know when I call the stream, if you want to join it, then I can prepare the breakout rooms for us and send you to the rooms. So I'm going to ask first about streams 2 and 3 because I have to actually put these people into the rooms. Who would be interested in joining Radical Action? And please, if it's possible for you, raise your digital hand. That will be easier for me to see you. Who would be willing to join the Radical Action group? Arne, yes. Jonathan and Paul. Okay. Anyone else? Brilliant. So I'm going to put you three. Yeah, Priscilla. Okay.
Ruth's hand was waving.
Whose hand?
Ruth.
Ruth. I don't see her hand. Ruth,
She's
are you
there.
Oh, the real hand. The real hand. Okay.
The real hand. Yes, the real hand.
Yes, thank you so much for making it known to me. Perfect. So I think someone has left again or doesn't want to join because I see only 3 hands.
Can I just say that go into groups 2 and 3 if that interests you. Group 1 will look at this topic, and if there's anybody who is really not sure where they want to go, stay in group 1.
Yes, exactly. It's the broadest topic. Here we will be a bit more general. So I have Arne, Jonathan, Paul, Priscilla, and Ruth for the stream 2. Is this correct? Good. And who would like to join stream 3, possibility of strategizing for joint action? So Arne, Paul, and Priscilla, can you lower your hands now? And then we have exactly Pamela, Charles, and Richard. Anyone else? Rory, you would like to join that too?
And I see Ron. Ron had his real hand up.
And Ron had his real hand up. Okay, great. So let me just give me 1 second because I need to quickly prepare this. I didn't have the rights to do it before. So 2 breakout sessions, and I'm going to put you in there. Room 1, we will have Arne. We will have Jonathan. We will have Paul. We will have Priscilla and Ruth. Ruth, where are you? Here. And then room 2, we will have Pamela
3.
and Charles. 3, sorry, Rory and Ron.
I
Correct.
see
Okay.
Richard and Andrew's hands as well.
Yeah.
Richard, okay, and Andres, okay, brilliant. So I will open these rooms, and whoever stays here, we will have a general discussion, and I will call you back at half, let's say 33, if that's okay. Let's go.
And each group should appoint somebody to report back.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ron. I'm also sending you some notes to the groups that you can use